Hiya, right, we're going to focus down on just two parts of this engine loom. Previous videos, or I'll repeat myself. I believe we've got the four separate types of loom which all connect together to form that loop around the engine I mentioned. What we're going to focus on now is this little dinky one here coming off the battery, which isn't very long, and it runs off to the starter motor and the, what else does it run off to? Alternator, power steering, something like that. And then this other one, where's it gone? It's this one here. It's the one with the ECU box on the end and all the coil pack and ignition parts. So these are the two I want to focus on. So let's go and have a look on the engine and see where all these bits and bobs go. Yeah, so it's the new year. Lose track on these videos, and it's really cold. It really kind of depletes your motivation when it's cold. But I think I'm going to have to start getting this diesel heater fired up in here just to take the edge off. But let's have a look at this engine anyway. Stop waffling on. Right, those two bits of loom I just showed you, I've just wrapped around the engine. So coming down here is the, hang on a sec, is the ECU attachment. It goes through the bulkhead there on that big rubber grommet. There's a couple of plugs just next to the ECU. And I believe I've written these on here. These go onto the internal loom. So that comes through the bulkhead to the ECU, and then these two connect onto the internal loom, the one with all the internal fuse box with the fuses and the ignition and all that. So they're just connectors to another loom. Coming round here, off there you've got a rear lambda sensor which will be on the exhaust, which I can't connect up onto anything. So the question is, do I fit another lambda sensor onto the rear of the exhaust where the pipe comes through? I don't know. It says these are heated oxygen sensors. I think what happens is the car heats the sensor up and makes the readings for the ECU a little bit more realistic if the sensor's cold. So that heats up the lambda sensor. The other lambda sensor is just further round, and we'll get to that in a second. But coming around on this loom again, we've got a speed sensor there onto the diff where the pot joints come in. So that must be picking up some kind of final drive speed there. So that's that brown one. Three, bit of green on it, 3 prongs. What happens then? That comes up and then it goes into this funny looking canister thing here, and up did figure out what that was. I think it's to do with the evap system, the emission controls thing. I think this pipe, it's like a fuel pipe, it shoots off to the charcoal canister and things, so it monitors emissions, but I ain't gonna have anything like that on mine, so I can't see this thing being used. What happens then? Comes round, goes into the 4 banks of coil packs and injectors. So there's my coil pack plugs, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there are the injector plugs, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just coming off from around there into the throttle body, I've got this one there, goes into the Boshy bit at the back, and there's this other one here, which goes into the other connection there. Not sure what these two things are, but they connect onto the throttle body. You can't really mess those up. Then I think this from the coil packs just comes round onto the cam plate there, which is that one, cam sensor, cam position sensor maybe, who knows. So comes round here off the coil pack wires again, comes up to this flywheel sensor crank. What we got here? What's it say? Flywheel timing sensor. There. Let's pull that off. Flywheel timing sensor. And that kind of curls round on this thin wire here and goes in there on the front of the gearbox. What else we got? We've got a couple of little temperature things here which go in down there that I'm pointing. The head temperature sensors, maybe water temperature sensors as well. Here's the front lander sensor, so you've got a front one and then you got that rear one, rear, front, and that one curls off and goes into the sensor on the manifold, so that's the front one. So the ECU heats these things up because they're called heated oxygen sensors, and takes readings to get the fuel air mixture correct. So my research tells me. Yes, so I go down there. What's this one? This one here goes onto another loom, goes onto the relay loom, and just behind the red terminal on the battery connection, that goes onto the relay terminal loom as well. One, two, three connect onto the other loom, which is on the bench upstairs. And then we have the battery connection. Right, what else we got? We've got this long wire coming round here onto a sensor underneath the, or just next to the fins on the gearbox casing. What have I got on that? Gearbox. Don't know what that is. We've got this brown one here, just above the gear selector. That is a vehicle speed sensor, and then coming round underneath, pop joint, driver side pop joint is something else. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe it's like a reverse sensor or something like that. What else we got? Done all that. Coming on to this main loom now. We've got the couple of bolted on wires there onto the starter motor. You can see those, they're pretty self-evident, you can't really mess those up. So there's a couple of a big and a small bolty on to the starter motor, and then we've got a engine earth there, and then there's a, just above the oil filter there's another oil temperature one, which I seem to have got wedged on at the moment. Yeah, well, there is one there, can't seem to pull that off. And then it comes round and goes off to the alternator, which I've got on loose. You've got the alternator plug, two connections in there, yellow with a red stripe and a blue next to it, and then there's something coming off it which I think is for the aircon pump if we had one on it still, and then it just bolts onto the terminal post on the alternator. That's it really. That's where those two looms, those two independent little looms, wrap themselves around the engine. And there's a few bits which connect it off onto the other looms. Those ones there, and these three bad boys here. All pretty straightforward. I think my only question there is now, do I fit another lambda sensor on the exhaust system? One on the front of the manifold and one at the rear. Pretty much on the single pipe area. When it comes under the sump, somewhere there to take the two readings. I suppose I'd better. It's like I'll have to drill a hole and weld a nut on and get another lambda sensor. I'm presuming they're both the same, front and back. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward. We'll have a look at the other bits of loom when I get to it. Catch you in a bit.